Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. I've had many women reach out asking about more information regarding menopause. We've been searching for information regarding perimenopause and menopause, and it has been ignored for way too many years. We're looking for solutions to what ails us the most, whether it's weight gain or lack of sleep, and we're angry for all of those lost years when menopause was just dismissed. I've asked our resident nutritionist and women's health coach, Annie Gaudreault, founder of VEEV Health and Wellness, to discuss empowering women to take control of their health. Annie, welcome back to Empower. Thank you so much for coming back again.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin. Why do you think that there's such a lack of resources and knowledge among primary care providers and OBGYNs when it comes to menopause?
I think it's important for people to understand that, the medical field is very traditional. It moves very slowly. It's only a few years ago, literally, that women were included in medical trials, for example. Okay? So now, not surprisingly, unfortunately, we can actually observe that there is no mandatory menopause curriculum in med schools. So no wonder this is not top of mind when we visit our GPs and our OBGYNs for support during this critical time of our life.
Yeah. So, can you elaborate on the idea that there's no one size fits all in the menopause experience? Clearly, there hasn't been research or anything, but how can women find the right support tools for their unique journeys? Because everyone is going through such a completely different journey.
Yes, and menopause is a natural phase of life. It's not a disease. I think that's really important to say right off the bat, Liz, right? Now, in North America, 70% of women will be experiencing hot flashes, right? And night sweats. Now, there are 34 symptoms recognized by the Menopause Society. No women will just be experiencing one symptom. We'll be experiencing a range of symptoms. This is why we say that it is not a one size fits all approach.
I'm astounded that you just said 70% of women. That's a huge number.
It is absolutely, and this is North America. It is different in other parts of the world. Before our culture, this is definitely the biggest one, and of course, as we know, it is extremely disruptive to our life, to our quality of life, to energy, and to our productivity.
So, let's talk about weight gain and poor sleep, because those seem to be the most common struggles during menopause for women. So, why are these issues so challenging? And what are some effective strategies to address them? Because I know everyone is trying to different vitamins or trying to do something.
This is one of the most frustrating things that people express, right? That women will experience. With this hormonal changes, the body will slowly, unfortunately, accumulate more fat, more visceral fat in the belly area. We also see, due to those hormonal changes, lower muscle mass, which also makes us gain more weight. So it's
Mm.
very frustrating. The same process also affects our sleep cycle, producing, a lot of sleepless nights and night sweats, which then also can circle back to making us gain more weight. Extremely frustrating. But the reality is, Liz, is that there are things that we can do. Right? Number one, nutrition. More protein, more fiber. Number two, not surprisingly, we need to take care of these muscles. We need to start strength training, which is also going to help us with this metabolism issue. So it's going to help us as well with, weight gain, hopefully making us lose some of that dreaded weight.
Yep.
And then, of course, there are things that will also help us with our sleep. Reducing alcohol, reducing caffeine will promote a better sleep quality. And then there are other options such as meditations, even cognitive behavior therapy, Liz, are great options for us to manage better sleep.
Okay, so Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Annie Gaudreault and menopausal remedies for us. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, we're discussing empowering women to take control of their health. Annie, let's continue. Many women feel angry about being dismissed over the years about menopause and perimenopause. How can they channel that anger into empowerment or advocacy?
I think that it's very understandable that women can be angry after being dismissed for so long. Now, anger is not going to do a lot of good if we don't take action. Right? I am encouraged because we now see a lot of new organizations, including hospitals, including nonprofit organizations that are promoting women's health at midlife or mature women's health. So it's important to get involved, sign the petitions when you see them, donate to these clinics if you can, right? But use your voice so that these areas of expertise really get the light that they need.
Yeah, that's good to know. I want to talk about, you mentioned the private sector has been stepping in with faster menopause solutions because this is new. Can you tell us more about these innovations and how they're actually impacting women's health?
Yes, because I think that the public sector is not trying to help us, but the reality is one of Toronto's biggest hospital, for example, has a new mature women's health division, right? But when women try to have an appointment there, it's 9 months to 2.5 years before women can see their appointments. We know that this is not realistic if you're a woman that really needs support. And of course, we don't need support a year from now. We need it now.
Yeah.
So these, there's entrepreneurs in the medical field that have realized there is an opportunity here to support women faster. So these private clinics are setting up, for example, consultations for women to receive potentially menopause hormone therapy or some alternative or variations of. But it also goes beyond that, Liz. We also see clinics that are dealing with osteoporosis issues, pelvic floor health, the issues that are really concerning women at this time of life. So there's a lot of innovation because there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of demand.
So, okay, let's talk about the pelvic floor health. And I know you're excited because you know that I know that you know about all this new stuff that's coming out. What exciting new products are you seeing in the market for sexual and pelvic floor health? Because that seems to be a problem for a lot of women as well.
It is a very common problem. And of course, these issues were all, clouded in shame in the past. So I'm excited that now there are some options for women for these very common experienced issues. So we're seeing services, clinics that are teaching women how to rebuild their pelvic floor. We're also seeing a lot of women entrepreneurs creating products to help women in their sexual health experience. So, whether they are moisturizers, lubricants, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that have been extremely innovative and understand what women are going through. We saw a lot of this at the recent Toronto Menopause Show, which was the first national Canadian show on menopause. And I spoke to a few of those entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, they were all sold out at the end of that first day. So that tells us that there's an enormous amount of potential out there.
And a huge demand as well.
Oh, yes, very much so. These are very common problems.
And you know what? It's interesting that we're talking about it right now because there are so many communities or women in different communities that can't talk about this because it's very, very taboo. Um, let's just move on to, how do you see women's willingness to ask questions and reject no as part of a broader movement for change? Because as we said, a lot of it was taboo.
Yeah, so we went from having to whisper about what we used to call the change, right? And now what is exciting, right? What is exciting is one way, whatever we think about the fact that, there's women in the public, such as Hollywood actresses, that actually have talked about menopause,
Yeah.
right? Oprah has talked about menopause. All of these public and influential figures are actually helping removing this shame and the stigma and the taboos, and realizing that we are only specifically speaking about a phase of life, and that there is no problem talking about this. It's really helping all of us being normalized and being also, Liz, validated in our experience.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing empowering women to take control of their health. Annie, let's just dive in again. What can women do to prepare themselves for peri and menopause, especially to discuss with their healthcare providers? Because again, we talked about it being taboo and people are so afraid of talking about it.
Yeah, so the first thing is I always say to women, keep track of all your symptoms. Everything, as random as it seems, from migraines to joint pain, keep a track of all of these things so that you can come armed with some information to share with your healthcare provider. That's the first thing that you need to do. The second thing is educate yourself. There are some amazing resources out there. The Menopause Foundation of Canada is a good source. There's also the Menopause Society, a website that is a wealth of information as well, where you can actually read the symptoms, you can cross-reference them with what you've been experiencing, and come basically equipped with really good arguments to speak with your healthcare provider about what are the best options for you.
So there's often pressure to achieve a certain size as part of your health. How do you advise women to shift their mindset around health and body image? Because this is a huge struggle for everyone.
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked this question, Liz, because truly health is not a size.
Mhm.
That's the first thing that women have to
True.
understand. For so long, though, it's really difficult because the health image has been this skinny, lean image of a woman, right? This is completely disconnected from natural genetic tendencies, because of course you just have to go back in history and you will see that healthy was definitely not on the skinny side.
Mhm.
Actually, skinny was considered there was a problem and
Yeah.
you were probably sick, right? So there's a big mentality, and combine that with the anti-aging movement, which is another really big deterrent for women as they look at themselves.
Yeah.
I always encourage women to think about focus on being strong, build that muscle, build that vitality. This is a much bigger determinant of health than the actual weight.
I agree as well. Building muscle is very important, especially, I mean, how many times have you heard a friend that her mother or her grandmother has fallen and broken a hip? As we get older, our bones get so much frailer. We need to protect our bones with muscles. And that's why it's so important for all of us to work out and build that muscle mass.
Yes, and we it was the there was this mentality when we were growing up that you didn't want to be bulking up, right? Because it was seen as a very masculine trait, right? Now, honestly, Liz, strong is the new sexy,
I
right?
agree.
Building muscles, which helps also our bones, which I'm so happy you talk about, because this is also another big threat of consequence of menopause with decreased levels of estrogen. We're so much more vulnerable to calcium leaching out of the bones and us being fragile. So this is a real threat to women. So embracing strength training, impact exercise is one of the best things that women can do.
I agree. And I know that you work out a lot. I work out a lot as well. And it's part of our daily lives. It's part of our regime. It's part of breathing, which we both understand the importance of it. I just want to shift to workplace policies because there's so many offices that are super, super hot or super, super cold. Why are workplace policies around menopause so essential right now? And what are some examples that organizations are leading the way?
So here we have a lot of work to do, Liz. In Canada, there's only 4% of corporations that actually have menopause policies in place,
Huh.
right? Compare that to the UK, where it's actually 39%.
Wow.
So we are really trailing behind. And this is just a sign of the times, right? It's just slowly getting there. Now, I'm excited because there are many companies for which this is now changing, right? We see that with some big insurance companies. I was reading a report, PricewaterhouseCooper, who was recognizing the need to have internal menopause policies. So we are seeing the awareness, and slowly the policies will be taking place.
Okay, great. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how to advocate in workplace policies. Don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, we're discussing empowering women to take control of their health. And I'm joined by our resident nutritionist and women's health coach, Annie Gaudreault, founder of VEEV Health and Wellness. Annie, before we went to break, we were talking about workplace policies. How can women advocate for these workplace policies in their own offices?
So it starts by literally raising the subject. Right now, I'm encouraged because, Liz, we are starting to see a lot more ERGs, right? Initiatives around women's health to really take place, advancement of women. We are starting to see more groups where I'm getting, hired to speak at these companies on the topic of menopause. So what it means is that if we actually talk about it, we allow people to be involved in the conversation. It allows also us to break a lot of the myths. But it also means that we need to bring along others, because menopause is not just a women's health issue. It is a company-wide issue because it affects productivity, retention, of course, profitability.
Yeah.
So we need to involve everybody, from top to bottom.
So everybody wants everything to be done quickly, right? And people are trying to, do things as quickly as possible and don't really want to go through the proper procedures. I want to talk about the dangers of quick fix solutions for menopause symptoms and why should women be cautious about them?
And I totally understand that women want relief of their symptoms.
Mhm.
The reality is that menopause symptomology is a complex issue to resolve, right? It took years to build, and it's going to take time to adjust. The body is in full transition. As we have spoken on your show before, Liz, perimenopause alone can be 7 to 10 years.
Wow.
So we cannot just expect a pill or even menopause hormone therapy, for example, to solve everything. It is very tempting to think that a supplement, right, alone will solve all our problems. The fact is that we need to take a holistic approach. Now, there are a lot of predators out there preying on the vulnerabilities of women, and we need to be very careful because not everything is very legit in the supplements world alone, Liz. We know there are no regulations.
Yep.
So there's a lot of so-called miracle cures, and the fact is that we have only a certain amount of scientifically based proven solutions that do help women at this stage of life.
Those are great words of wisdom because, everybody is running around. People don't have time. People are suffering. They want a solution. And I'm glad that you really explain that because I think that's really helpful to people. I want to talk about entrepreneurs because I know that you were at a conference and you saw entrepreneurs making a difference in the menopause space. What kind of impact are they having?
It was really exciting, Liz. And I saw women that, from their own experiences, for example, decided I I've got to solve this problem. So I met a woman, for example, who started a line of nightwear, right? PJs and nightgowns, because she could not tolerate or find anything that actually helped sleep better with these so-called, night sweats.
Mhm.
I saw entrepreneurs that are creating healthy snacks for women that are based on high protein, low sugar, that will actually help us with our insulin levels and the weight gain. So much creativity and so much innovation. I am, and on all spectrum of all of the symptoms that we have. So it was extremely exciting to see, and I think that this is just the beginning.
I love it. Okay, we have 10 seconds left. If you could change one thing about how society views menopause, what would it be?
It would be the mindset that menopause is not a time of loss, but rather a massive time of opportunity and transformation for women.
This was great. Thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you.
Annie says we must continue to advocate for ourselves for access to proper health care and workplace policies for all women. With 1 billion of us entering perimenopause worldwide next year, there's no time to waste. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.